In this episode of Building RYLOTH, we are in the endgame. We are less than 2 weeks away from Brickfair, Virginia. So we're making a lot of progress in this episode, finishing up the Capitol walls, as well as finishing up most of the terrain. And this is a lot of stuff that I've already explained, which means we have time to answer plenty of questions throughout this episode. But there's also some of the finer details that we'll be working on throughout this episode, so let's get straight into it. So to wrap up the Capitol, we'll be mirroring the other side of the Capitol walls, so this is the perfect time to begin the Q&A portion of this episode. Jesse Studio asks, do you like collecting custom minifigures like GCC or CAC? So CAC stands for Clone Army Customs, and GCC stands for Grandpa Clone Customs, if you aren't aware. And out of those two options, I personally prefer Clone Army Customs. I have their Phase 2 Captain Rex and Fives figures. Both of those are immaculate figures, just incredible detail with all of their figures that they do. I use them both in my Umbara mock. I will say that their website does desperately need to be updated though. It does not have the friendliest user interface. And I haven't purchased anything from Grandpa Clone Customs, but I do really appreciate the work that they do over there. I really love how they meld together with the new Lego Clone Trooper aesthetic. They really blend perfectly with this new style of Clone Troopers. So I am hoping to purchase something from them in the future. Red Kansas asks what your favorite singular episode of the Clone Wars is. Mine is Rookies, Season 1, Episode 5. Definitely a great choice. I do really love that episode as well. For me, it's really difficult to name one episode. I can name some of my favorite story arcs like the Umbara arc and the Siege of Mandalore, but naming one is quite difficult. So I think I'm going to go with Season 2, Episode 5, which was Landing at Point Rain. This wasn't the first episode I watched, but I think this was the first episode where I really started to get invested into the show. I mean, the second Battle of Geonosis just does not hold back. It's just non-stop action. I mean, they were able to get away with a lot since the Geonosians are technically just bugs, so Ki-Adi-Mundi is just out there using flamethrowers. And then the episode ends with a pretty wholesome scene between Ki-Adi-Mundi and Anakin. Also, Waxer and Boyle are in this episode, and they are a few of my favorite clone troopers. Bala Bricks asks, how do you, a college student, have space for a large-scale mock and Lego collection? So you kind of have to think about it like this. For the longest time, I had been working out of my bedroom for everything. So my bedroom not only had to hold all my Lego sets, pieces, mocks, and it also had to make room for myself to sleep. So I had to try to get creative then with how I stored my Lego. I couldn't really display all of it, and the ones I could, it was really kind of cluttered together, but I really had to work with what I had then. But after I started my first year of college, we actually shifted around some of the rooms in my parents' house, and luckily there ended up being an empty room, which has now become my Lego room, which I'm currently working out of now. So while I was living at my dorm on campus for most of the time, I did come back typically during the weekends since it's not too far, and so that I could, one, continue working at the same job I had, but I could also build Lego and work on this channel. So I've really just been trying to do the most with what I've had available. My situation is going to be changing again during this next school year. I won't really go in depth right now since I may have an update video that's going to be coming out after Brickfair. We're going to take a quick break from the Q&A because I'm going to be designing this extra room that will be sitting in this larger building. Now originally in the series I suggested that I may build the landing pad where Wat Tambor is loading treasure onto his ship, but obviously that won't be able to happen now, so I thought instead I would build a little treasure room where I can throw in a bunch of Easter eggs. So I was able to just kind of make up this room, and I thought that having the wall slanted would be an interesting detail. I also added some white tiles to sort of represent those Imperial-esque lights, which are also seen inside the prison I built previously. But I added some columns to add a little extra depth to the walls, and the ceiling of the room is pretty simply built with 2 lights added using the same design from the prison. With the room built, I want to add in some little details and Easter eggs, such as this crate containing the most valuable currency. I also had to throw in a mini kit, as well as Wat Tambor directing some battle droids who are carrying the Ark of the Covenant, which was actually an Easter egg in this episode to Indiana Jones and the Raiders of the Lost Ark, so I had to include a reference to that Easter egg in this mock. And obviously there's some pieces missing that I'll need to replace, but the design was inspired by a Reddit post that I found, and I will link it in the description of the video. But yeah, I'm pretty happy with this little room. I'm glad I could do some depiction of this scene. Let's get back to a couple of Q&A questions. Jennifer Kraftchick, I hope I'm pronouncing that right, asks, what Clone Wars battle have you always wanted to build, and do you have any plans for future projects? So the most important thing for me when deciding on what mock to build is that it must be a location or episode that I've never seen before, at least not on a larger scale. So I do have a couple ideas that I could potentially do, but I'm curious if you guys have any ideas for locations in Star Wars. It doesn't necessarily have to be from the Clone Wars, but let me know what you would like to see me build in the comments. I would love to hear your ideas. So in this Clone Wars episode, the Separatists put the civilians of the Capitol right outside in front of the walls in these camps to sort of act like human shields. Well, I guess they aren't human, so I guess alien shield? Anyways, I wanted to represent these camps by designing a couple of tents. I finally figured out a design that I liked, and I'm starting by angling the sides using some modified plates. You'll also notice that I'm missing a couple pieces at the moment. It will be all dark tan in the end. But I needed a 1x3 inverted slope, and they don't make that in dark tan. So I shoved one of these Technic pins into the bottom of one of these normal 1x3 slopes. I don't normally like to use this technique since it leaves a little gap, but I didn't really have another option here. I bicam mirrored the same thing on the other side and begin work on the sort of entrance into the tent, which will just be made in black so you can't see the ugly interior. The sides of the tent will attach at an angle using this round plate with a bar, which are attached on either side of the black tile. Both sides of the tent attached with a bit of finicking, which completes the main portion of the tent. But the tent needs a way to stay up, so I begin building the pole that will hold up the tent, basing the design on what we see in the episode. I'm using various bars and clips, attaching them together to allow for as much detail as possible. The tent will sit right in front of the Capitol walls, and I'm planning to build 5 in total at the moment, once I get more pieces in. Now I want to return to working on the terrain, specifically the left side, which we really haven't made any progress on yet. So let's do a couple rapid fire Q&A questions. Brickborg has a pretty easy question. They ask, what is your favorite Lego color? So I'm pretty tempted to say that my favorite color is translucent neon green, because that color almost gives a sort of kind of nostalgic feeling since it was a very common color among older Lego sets. But I'm a big fan of this color and always try to use it when I can. Pippin asks, what's the most useful Lego part in your opinion? Pretty much any bracket piece or just the bracket family of pieces as a whole, just because it's such a useful piece when working with Lego geometry and snot work. It allows you to kind of fill in that half plate gap that's very common when you're working with Lego geometry and allows you to line up slopes perfectly. Tom Moeller asks, would you ever do mock tutorials? Now this is something that I would like to do, but I don't really want to do just simple technique tutorials. I would like to try to focus more on explaining my thought process when designing mocks, as well as various other larger concepts of the Lego system as a whole, so that you can kind of take that information and apply it to your own mocks, if that makes any sense. Commander Snarks asks, what is your favorite Lego set of all time? I think the answer is going to be a little generic, but the 2013 Republic gunship is such a memorable Lego set from my childhood. But I remember my cousin getting the set one Christmas and I immediately knew what I was going to be asking the next Christmas, or maybe it was my birthday, I don't really remember. But it was a really fun set once I got it. It's just such a great time just flying it around. It has the perfect handle to just swoosh it around. And those are all the questions for this episode. Feel free to leave any questions in the comments using the hashtag Q&A. I may have time for 1 or 2 questions in the finale, so while you're at it, why not subscribe as well to make sure that you are aware for when the finale releases. But that is a sizable portion of the terrain completed. I do plan on adding a bit more detail to this portion once more pieces arrive. I did receive the pieces that will allow me to put together 2 of the droidicas that were designed by the people over at Brickvault. This was a very interesting build. There were some really unique techniques done in order to capture the eyes of the droid, and even though they are unable to transform into a ball like they can in universe, they are actually quite posable models, which ended up surprising me. I also purchased 4 of these clone minifig packs from Bricklink. From the listing, I found it was actually cheaper to buy the set than it was to buy the figs individually. I got these for the phase 1 clone troopers that I'm going to be using. Also picked up 2 of these new battle packs. Obviously the droids are really useful, but also the bodies of the phase 2 clone troopers. But I have some extra phase 1 helmets that I can just slap onto these bodies of these phase 2 troopers, since they are the exact same bodies. So that makes 14 more clone troopers added to the invasion force. But make that 15 actually, because I also purchased this custom commander pawns from Engineerio Customs. I hope I'm pronouncing that right still. There will be a link in the description to his store. I'm not sponsored or anything, I've just had a good experience with him so far. What I love about this figure is how it matches perfectly with the new style of clone troopers, so it will match well with the phase 1 clone troopers I'm already using. But he has a nice waist cape as well, and he is overall a great fig. So the next episode should be the finale for this series. So let me know in the comments if there are any last minute additions you would like to see me add before the finale. But thank you so much for watching this episode. Have a great day everyone. Goodbye.